Yeah, time for us to get some history into our ears, and of course it all is all local. And joining us from history out there is Harold Peacock. How are you, mate?
Oh, very well, thanks, Damo. And yeah, another big local Darling Downs story.
I know you've got a story that is about the Gammie brothers of the Darling Downs.
Yeah, that's right. And the colonies are left behind that none of us are taught in school.
Oh, okay. Well, it's over to you, mate.
Yeah, look, the Gammie brothers were among the first to settle the Darling Downs. They became the most eligible bachelors in the colonies, but they left and are virtually unknown today. There's even a Mount Gammie that's 40 kilometres west of Warwick, a Gammie Street in Clifton, and Gammie Swamp at Perga, but very few people know about the Gammies.
Oh.
Yeah, so look, George and John Gammie were two young men, the sons of a Dr. Gammie of Aberdeen in Scotland. They squatted on the Darling Downs in the 1840s, eventually acquiring the trophy properties of Clifton Station, Taugai Run, and Mount Flinders Station. Now, it was at Mount Flinders Station in 1848 that a former convict was killed when an axe went through his head. Now, the accused was found not guilty because the jury believed that the dead man had tripped and fallen on the axe himself.
Huh.
Yeah, but by 1850, the Gammies were very wealthy men worth hundreds of millions of dollars in today's money. It was said that they were shearing up to 60,000 sheep a year.
Wow.
But in May 1853, the Gammies had a falling out, and the Gammie brothers' partnership was dissolved. 10 weeks later, John Gammie, he'd travelled from Taugai to Ipswich, he suddenly died. But before the partnership could be properly wound up, John's fabulous wealth was transferred to his brother George, who in 1855 sold all the properties. Now, George Gammie hightailed it off back to England, where he bought a huge Oxfordshire estate, got married, went broke, and his Oxfordshire property fell into the hands of a family that became really close friends with the late Queen Elizabeth.
Wow.
The royal family were regular visitors there. But the Gammies were not lost to Australia or the Darling Downs. You see, we know that some DNA remained thanks to a much celebrated paternity case that began in 1850. It was the first big paternity case in Australian history. That's when a maid on one of the Gammie properties, possibly Taugai, took John Gammie to court. It was 20-year-old Esther Simmons who alleged that John Gammie was refusing to support his illegitimate child. Now, Gammie admitted being the father, and the Ipswich court made an order for maintenance, but Gammie simply ignored it. So Esther took the case to the Brisbane court, where an order was again made, and again he ignored it. So Esther took her claim to the court in Sydney, because, of course, Queensland was still part of New South Wales then. And we should note that the 32-year-old squatter, John Gammie, was very much a member of the squattocracy, which was that fraternity of wealthy landowners, and he was very rich and a very eligible bachelor. Now, when the case arrived in Sydney, at first it was postponed for a month while they waited for the mail to arrive from Moreton Bay.
Right.
Once the Brisbane court order was received, the judges still refused to rule on it. So they just delayed it some more. One of the two judges was Edward Flood. And just like John Gammie, Flood was a father of a number of illegitimate children and also a member of the squattocracy. So almost a year after poor young Esther took the case to Sydney, eventually the court ruled that John Gammie was ordered to pay 10 shillings a week for 12 months. But there's no evidence that any payment was ever made. So, Damo, next time we're all passing Mount Gammie, just west of Warwick, just remember young Esther, her child, the Gammie brothers, and the sudden deaths, questionable inheritances, financial ruin, and DNA that they left behind on the Darling Downs. It's a great story, but no one knows it.
It certainly is. Well, they know it now.
Oh, I hope all the thousands of listeners will be spreading it for sure.
That's right. They'll be climbing up Mount Gammie going, "Oi, we know about the Gammie brothers now."
Mate, wasn't his Gammie leg either. No. He was quite well.
No, that is good to hear, mate. Now, of course, you'll be posting this up on your website?
Absolutely. I post the story on website, historyouthere.com, on Friday mornings. But you can also see it on Instagram, Facebook, X, and YouTube. It's across a whole lot. History Out There.
All right. Fantastic. HistoryOutThere.com. Check it out. And, of course, you can read all of the past stories as well that Harold's done on the program. Mate, always appreciate your time and the great stories that you got to tell. And we'll look forward to doing it again next week.
I love it. There's so much history on the Darling Downs. I love it.
Oh, fantastic. There he is, Harold Peacock from HistoryOutThere.com. Check out the website and read all of those fabulous stories. Quick break, back with more in a moment.